Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Carm Capriato. Welcome, Remarkable Results Radio. Without you, we have no show, so we appreciate you hanging in there and being with us. You know, you've heard me say this a bunch of times this particular year about knowing that we all know someone that is affected by breast cancer. But did you know that there's a couple of shop owners in Cleveland, Ohio that started Breaks for Breasts probably 10 or 11 years ago and have helped fund breast cancer research for triple-negative breast cancer? And 100% of the money that they collect each and every year goes to the Cleveland Clinic. They're in clinical trials. Keep an ear out for an episode coming up as to exactly how to sign up and be involved. But if you want to know more, breaksforbreast.com. I'm with Alex Saladna. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Carm. Thanks for inviting me today.
Glad to have you here. WickedFile. I met you, I think, a couple of years ago at the Institute's conference. And I was really fascinated by your software. And the more I kept thinking about it and the more we actually kind of played little email tag, I said, you know, I got to have you on here because more than ever, we have to worry about every little piece of detail in our business and how we make money. And one of the things that I was always worried, a couple of things, that we order parts that never get to an invoice. And I know that at least 35 years ago, we as an industry said to our supplier, got to have our O number on our invoice, but it doesn't mean that we do that religiously. So that's a major key. And then my accountant says that this is my gross profit margin through my profit and loss statement, and my SMS says something different. How do I discover and find that gap? And so you're here to tell us that you and your dad many, many years ago said, you know what? We probably can use the computer and this new thing called AI and the fact that we can survey an invoice and pull things off of it and find out where all the gaps are in our business, and from billing, shipping, and parts that weren't billed. I love this. I can't wait to hear all about it. So how did this all come about? Was your father as frustrated as so many other people are?
Yeah. So, my dad, he's a shop owner of 40 plus years, actually owns 8 different locations across Georgia and Texas. And as he was growing his business, he was doing all the right things from the outside. Everything was going great. He was working on the Texas locations. And one day a new accountant he hired actually came to him and said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but there's 180 grand that's just missing. And unfortunately, it turned out that 2 employees of his had been funneling parts out of the back door and basically selling them on eBay. And the things that they were doing were insane. I mean, they would backdate ROs previous quarters where nobody was watching them because the books were closed, and they were adding stuff on there, and they were doing all sorts of different things. And the point was, he saw this and said, I'm doing all the right things, but this still happened. What did I do wrong? And there's so many little bits and pieces of the business in auto repair that you have to track, especially on the parts side, that it's almost an impossible task. Myself, him, and it's a family-run business, and my uncle, his brother, all came together and said, let's build something that uses technology, that uses AI. And my uncle actually came from a development background for the DoD. He was a software developer there. He brought a lot of the experience that he had to this to say, let's build a best-in-class parts tracking solution to the auto repair industry and let these shop owners focus on building their business and not working in their business day in and day out. And that's exactly what we're here to do.
You're talking about black holes that exist inside of businesses. And so many of us don't know that they're there, that they exist. But some of us that have really good intuition, that really love to observe and see things, and will all of a sudden, every once in a while, pick up an invoice and just start, wow, man, this is the only first time it ever happened. And the beauty of what I love about WickedFile, I don't ask me why, where this name came from, but it just means something to me. I don't know why WickedFile. Can you tell me where WickedFile came from?
It's not nearly as exciting as you might think, but basically when we started, we had all these names. Like we must have had 100 different names. And we were like, let's come up with a name that just kind of sticks out and it's something that people remember. And then we also set the horrible goal of making it a .com domain that we could get.
Yeah.
And if you've ever tried to find a .com domain, they're almost all taken at this point. And
Yeah.
so after way more effort than I'd like to admit, our CTO actually was like, let's just call it WickedFile. It's cool. We work with files. Let's just do that. And that's where the name kind of stuck. So now every time we go to a conference, everybody thinks we're from Boston. And it's almost 100% chance that some guy or girl from Boston will scream across the room.
Wicked cool. This is just, it's just
like
wicked cool. I just love this. It's all about tracking your spending and managing all these financial documents, all these tickets that come in. And when you and I were on the phone, one of the things that really hit me hard, and again, please, to our listener, this is huge. This is big. And when you said, oh, somebody was funneling parts in a certain place and it was 180 grand, trust me, there's people out there in our audience that are saying, been there, done that, and they may not even know to the depth that has ever been done to them. And that's what we're here to talk about. It's almost like I wish I had, cameras everywhere and I could clone myself and be part of every invoice matching. God, how much time we would need. And what I was fascinated about your software is that I could literally call up a part number and it would search this file database and show me where it got invoiced. It's all these great things that I've learned that I can't wait to share with the audience. It's about paying sales tax for something that you really shouldn't have because maybe the vendor doesn't have your on file. And did I not charge shipping to the client when I told them that, hey, listen, we can get this part tomorrow. It's coming from the West Coast, but there's going to be a shipping charge. Don't worry, I need it. Let's go. I got to have my vehicle. In failing to charge.
Yeah.
And frankly, absorbing that cost, and that's just not right. So am I getting close to what these critical things are that your clients say, we love this for all those reasons?
It's all of that. And what's funny is there's a huge portion of shop owners who have felt this pain and understand it, but there's an equal number of shop owners out there who say, there's no way this is my shop. There's no way I have these problems. Everything I have is locked down and I feel great. And that was exactly how my dad, my co-founder, was for the majority of his career until it wasn't. And I think that is something that's super important to remember is it may not be someone stealing from you. It may be an IRS audit. It may be something else like a vendor slipping tax and shipping on there. And that can add up to a lot of money over the years. And this stuff happens, unfortunately. I had a customer who their first month on board with us came back and said, I don't know if you know this, but we have a dealer down the street and they ship transmissions to us and they do transmission repair. So lots of transmissions, lots of cores. And they said, we were getting charged $1,000 in shipping a month in shipping fees to ship these transmissions a mile down the road in the back of a pickup truck. So they took like 3 to 4 months worth of these $1,000 fees, 3 to 4 grand, said, this isn't right. You need to pay us back. And the dealer did. They got 3 to 4 grand back in their first month. And that's the kind of stuff that if you're not looking for it, you'll be surprised. And unfortunately, these people know what they can and can't get away with.
It sounds like too much fun. Here's what I mean by that. I get the system, I bring it in. We're 6, 8, 9 months into collecting this stuff. And then I go and I type in shipping because I can't wait to find where I may have holes in my relationships with my suppliers or just in the business because we're not paying attention to it. And that's what I love about your story about the transmission, a mile down the road. And you brought up one thing about cores. One of the things that I don't believe in our industry. I mean, I think the top shops do this religiously. They get it, they know it. But to get a new return, alleged warranty, or a core credit back from the supplier, that's a huge gap in profit, revenue, and gross margin.
Yeah, it is. It's way bigger than you think. And the higher the volume of returns, the worse, unfortunately, it gets. And so, one of the cool things about what we do, and we teach classes on this. I was actually at a conference out in Dallas, Fort Worth area, and we were teaching a class on just how can you do best practices in your shop to have better parts tracking and better profit management. And it wasn't even involving the solution. So, there's a slew of best practices out here for this. And one of the big ones is get the return slip. A lot of shops will neglect the return slip, or they'll settle on these like flimsy diner receipt handwritten return slips that nobody can read and aren't really useful. And what that ends up doing is it just creates a ton of ambiguity. You run into a situation where if I send back, and this is a real example, customers sent back a $3,000 strut and they never got credited back on it. And they have caught it because they started using our solution. But if they had just had the return slip, spent the 2 seconds to sign it, they would have had that stack of return slips without a stack of credits and would have known immediately a week, 2 weeks later, this is something we should have got credited back on. Where's our money?
Do you have any special discipline inside of WickedFile or the processes that you set up to track credits? I mean, are you expecting, you want the driver signed, or do you call in to the supplier and says, listen, we're returning these items. When he comes and picks them up, I actually want the credit in my hand, the real live credit to my account. How do you expect it to happen?
Yeah, we will track the invoice all the way to the credit memo. We're obviously storing that stuff and tagging those documents as invoices or credits. We bring in the vendor statement as well and the credit card transactions. So if I return something to a dealership, for example, and I don't get a monthly statement from them, which is pretty normal, we'll actually look at that credit and say, okay, was that credit applied to the credit card where you actually got your money back? There's a lot of checks and balances that go into this that do two things. Number one, did I get my money back? Number two, is everything in the system, or are there blind spots today where my vendor's not giving me the documents that I need? Or worse, and I've seen it before, I'm getting charged for some other shop's purchases down the road, which unfortunately happens every now and then.
I can't believe that. It happens. It's the real world. People make mistakes.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. How does this work? I guess my curiosity is, okay, do I have to go out and buy a scanner and make sure every sheet of paper that I produce, every invoice, every vendor ticket gets scanned into a system? Boy, I don't have time to do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's something we hear a lot. And, I can get it. If you look at the statistics, I think I read one once, it's like 24% of an owner's time or of a shop's time can be spent on back office activities alone. And I believe it. And that's with a 5 to 6 employee business. That's not even a really big multi-location shop. And the big thing behind it is we've made it as easy as possible to get the benefits of putting in that time without having to dedicate all of that time. And what I mean by this is you can scan the documents up if you like to do that. But we've also created ways where if your vendor supports email invoicing, a lot of the big ones do, you can have them just email it straight into the system. And so when that goes into the system, it's stored. It's categorized by location and document type. Like what you said before, you can just search for that document like you're searching for a website on Google and immediately find what you're looking for. So you don't have to spend time filing and organizing all this stuff in, a Google Drive or in filing cabinets yourself, which is what a lot of people do. I've seen some Google Drive folders that have like 7 different levels, and a bookkeeper will spend hours just sorting and managing all this stuff inside of these folders. And it doesn't save any more time than, or a similar amount of time as just using the filing cabinet.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go to your vendor and says, email me your invoice to this particular, is it a separate email, something new, something different?
Yeah, it's a specific email, but the cool thing is you can just give them one.
All right, fine. Well, it comes in and then you guys go to work on that particular device and you index, I believe. Am I using the right word? You'd say, we see the word shipping, we see a part number, we see a vendor. And are you indexing that so that your subsequent search, whatever day down the road, you can immediately find something quick?
Yeah. So it's almost like you crumpling up the invoice, throwing it in your filing cabinet, and it immediately just goes into the right folder and takes care of itself.
Hunt Demarest, who's just a great accountant, he's got a show on our Aftermarket Radio Network. Hunt. We just did a really neat episode with him recently, and I was talking about the receipts in the cardboard box, and Hunt says, we call them shoebox customers, where they throw all the paper in shoe boxes.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've got a customer who told me they had like 6 years of documents in their attic. And I was just thinking about that, the amount of weight, like that ceiling must be ready to like collapse because they do a lot of paper. Like that's got to be hundreds of pounds at least, if not more. But I mean, whether it's your attic, whether it's a storage unit, whatever, that stuff's got to go somewhere. And the thing is, you can't throw it away, but you got to make it accessible. Because if you think about it, what happens if you get audited by the IRS? My co-founder, he's unfortunately had to deal with that before in the past. And when they come in, you're not doing what you had planned that day. You're stuck with them. And you're not taking them to your storage unit to go start digging through boxes. You got to have that stuff there. And so you want them in and out as quick as possible. And the great thing about this solution is if they can just type in a price or type in a transaction or type in whatever they're looking for, like they're looking for a website on Google, that lets them get to what they need to see quicker. And that gets them out your door quicker. And that way you can go about continuing what you've been doing before and focusing on your business.
Alex, are you doing anything with expenses? Forget about parts and sales. For example, if Cintas was a vendor of mine, are you doing anything in that area?
Yeah, we are. So, obviously you can throw the invoices and stuff in there, but one of the cool things we're actually working on right now, and we're hoping to have this out late summer, early fall. It's a couple releases, but it's actually going to let you view your expenses at a whole different level. So we'll bring in the information that we see from your credit card transactions and bank transactions. We'll pull in the information that we see from your management system, and we'll start to be able to plot and show you at a high level, hey, here's where this location had a huge increase in their spending on Chick-fil-A or something like that. Or here's where this location over here hasn't been charging anything for parts, but this other location has been charging a lot on their Audi dealership parts. So maybe all the charges are going on this credit card. We're going to start to be able to look at these transactions graphically at a whole different level. So you get a high level insight into where's the money going in my business. That stuff we're already kind of doing today, but we're creating a lot of higher level insights. So at a glance, where I'm making money, where I'm losing money, and where I need to bring my spend down.
Hey, it's no secret. We're facing a technician shortage, and NAPA Auto Care has a solution with the NAPA Auto Care Apprentice Program. The program was pioneered by one of our own. Pete McNeil and Master Technician Jeg Sorensen from McNeil's Auto Care in Sandy, Utah, realized that the problem of not having technicians available for hire was not going to solve itself and decided to take action and look at a different audience of individuals available for hire. A focus was put on younger individuals with the right passion, desire, and attitude to work in the automotive repair industry. Jake and Pete sought after these individuals and developed a technician apprentice program to give them the training needed to become a successful technician in today's world. The NAPA Auto Care Apprentice Program includes a comprehensive 9-stage curriculum that includes a variety of types of training, and they are classroom training videos exclusive to the apprentice program. Now, these videos provide in-depth training from a successful master technician. Also, Autotech classes with instructor-led courses offered through NAPA Autotech and Autotech e-learning. This web-based e-learning is designed to target specific training topics. And finally, hands-on learning. The apprentice will apply the skills gained from the classroom training videos, Autotech instructor-led training, and Autotech e-learnings in the shop with the guidance of a mentor. The apprentice program curriculum is competency-based, meaning an apprentice can move through each stage at a pace that best suits them. Most apprentices complete the program within 2 years. Upon completion, apprentices will have earned ASE G1, A4, A5, and AC certifications, adding industry validation to the skills an apprentice acquires. Look, having an apprentice in your shop will ultimately benefit your bottom line as they advance through the program. And in most cases, as the apprentice develops their skill set producing billable hours, you'll begin to see a growth in your gross profit by stage 5. One of the largest barriers to entry for individuals looking to enter the automotive repair industry is the cost of tools. Now, keep your apprentice motivated with an apprentice toolkit. Now, NAPA Auto Care has worked with our supplying partners to offer an exclusive comprehensive tool set, including a 4-drawer tool cart for all registered apprentices. Hey, to learn more, members can visit member.napaautocare.com. If we stop and think that this piece of software, this management methodology, if that makes any kind of sense, could ever have been created, my God almighty. I mean, with AI and what's going on with AI today, it's scary what AI can do. And you guys, I think the algorithms that you were writing a long time ago, did you ever think that we would call this stuff AI today?
No, in fact, we started this back in 2021. So back
Wow.
then, blockchain was the hot thing in crypto. No one really bothered AI, but now AI is cool, and so
Yeah.
it's got a completely different perception now, which is good. But at the same time, technology and change. There's a lot going on right now, but the end goal is we want to make it so your business is more profitable. You're spending less time on the busy work. And then at the same time, you're not focusing on the things that are holding your business back. You're focusing on the things that made you want to start this to begin with, helping customers, working on cars, helping to create opportunities for you and your family in the future. And that's what this is all about. And, it came from someone in the industry who wanted and needed that exact type of solution as well.
This is a why not moment in my mind. You can say that you were doing it not with the way AI works today, but you were literally creating what AI is today way back, and then blending it together and doing all the indexing and the ability to search. Does this work with every shop management system out there?
No, not today. So we work with 5 different management systems and we're adding more. I'm working on adding 2 more currently. But today we work with TechMetric, Shopware, NAPA Tracks, Mitchell, and Protractor. And like I
Okay.
said, there's 2 others we're working on adding, and I'm hoping to have those here by the fall. We're just continuing to add more as they come.
Is that a difficult process at your end to blend their stream of data into yours?
Getting the integration to happen is easy. Working through maybe some of the bureaucracy of getting the integration going can be difficult. It can be easy, but it varies. The ones we work with today have all been great to work with and see the value that this has, not just for their customers, but then also elevating insights for themselves too. And we have a great relationship with them across the board.
Any other great stories? One of the things that we were talking about is the ability, which I think is so cool, is I could go to my computer, I can go to WickedFile and say, listen, am I selling any cabin air filters? I seem to be waiting. I got to sell it to the customer. They finally say yes. It takes me a half hour to get the part. The customer is just coming in. I mean, we have gaps in levels of service and the need we have. Wouldn't it be cool if we could go to WickedFile and say, give me all the cabin airs. Oh my God, look at this. I sold 20 of these this year. I'll put one on the shelf. Wouldn't that be cool? Could you do that?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, one of the things that we see often, it happens a lot more than you think, is you'll go into inventory, right? Because if you mark anything as INV in the PO number, we'll actually catch that and move that item into an inventory bucket for you. And once we do that, you can see, hey, why do we have a radiator in inventory? Or why do we have a $300 part sitting in there? Inventory can act, and Hunt will say the same thing, right? I'm sure he's brought this up before. Inventory can act as a slush fund. And so a lot of times it's really advisable, keep your inventory limited. It's easier said than done, but using solutions like what we have, we can really let you be proactive, see immediately if something of high value goes into inventory and figure out ways to bring that number down so you get more clarity in your business and you're not using inventory for huge
I
amounts.
like what you just said. If you put INV in the PO number, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So you'd have to work with your supplier to be sure that anything that we're buying for inventory in the PO number, it has an INV there. What
Yeah.
other kind of disciplines do you have in the system to make it work so well?
Yeah, so we talked about the INV, the signed RMA is a big one. Another one, and a lot of shops do this, but some don't, having the repair order number and the PO number on that invoice match.
But as I said in the beginning, 35 years ago, we started as an industry to do that. Should it proceed with a number sign, RO? What is there any discipline there?
The PO number needs to be the RO number.
Period, just the number. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing I would say, and this is where someone would probably say, well, what about the customer's name, right? I want to be able to see it at a glance. If you just use the customer's name, it creates a lot of confusion, and we still see issues that come up. Because if you have like 12 Kelly Smiths who come to your shop, which is pretty likely, okay, well, what happens when they both come in at the same time? It just makes things very confusing. If a customer wants to, or a shop owner wants to keep that, you could do like RO number / Case Smith or something like that. You can do both, but you got to have that RO number in there.
Got
It just
it.
makes things so much easier.
What else should we know about WickedFile? Is it WickedFile.com?
Yeah, it is .com. So I think the big thing, and this is something that a lot of people don't really realize, I think, is the job of parts tracking is insanely time consuming. And once again, like I've had a lot of great conversations with Hunt and Parmelis and a lot of accounting groups in general.
Mhm.
And this is something that they all recognize as a monumental task. A lot of shops, I think, haven't really had the opportunity to really be able to dig into their parts without dedicating a ton of time. And so for us, our job is not to automate or remove any positions inside of the shop. In fact, it's the complete opposite. Our job is to enhance and only bubble up the problems to you. So that way, you know, when you come in, exactly what the problems are in your business. And then you can get those fixed and then move on and focus on other parts of the business that are important, like negotiating with Cintas or consolidating your vendors. So instead of having 100 vendors, you only have 20 and you get better bargaining power and stuff like that. You know, the important things that help the business grow. And so that's what we're here for. And like I said, when we go into a shop after we've trained up the shop and the team on how to use the system, they absolutely love it. You know, there's some change management of processes, as you might be able to guess, but they're all come from best practices from talking to shops across the US, both big and small, and learning what makes things work for them and what doesn't. Because at the end of the day, the thing that I've seen is not enough people talk about how to run the business itself. Everyone wants to talk about how to grow a new location, how to market better, how to hire better, all big problems. But at the end of the day, that parts piece can cost you a ton and unfortunately shut businesses down too.
Well, to your point, I think it's not magic. You just don't get this, turn it on, and feel that it's going to be magic. You have to work it, find the new disciplines in the company, listen to what you guys have to say. If I got this, is there any kind of training that comes with it, or am I all alone in trying to figure out how it works?
There is training. So whenever we bring people on board, first of all, we do a free trial. So you can actually try out the solution, no payment information required, and just see how it works for your business. And if you like it, you can come on board. We've got a support team that'll work with you. We do weekly webinars, and we also have ticket requests and stuff that you can put in if things just aren't working. So we do our best to give as many at-bats for training and enablement for our customers as possible. So that way they can get spun up, they can get these proper changes in place and get the clarity that they need to run their business.
Cool. Before we leave, another cool story that came from someone putting in WickedFile that I can't believe I found this kind of money. You got a story?
Yeah, so I've got a shop. They are pretty big, multi-location, multiple states. And I remember when they started using our solution, two things happened. First of all, they came to us and they said, we found over $1,000 in sodas that we've been purchasing at our shops. And you think about how expensive like a thing of sodas from Sam's Club is, like $1,000. That's insane. So what they discovered was people were taking them home and the spend was crazy. That caused them to freak out. But then the other piece was they discovered that people were stealing. They found a ton of theft in their shop, which they never expected to see at all. They were very confident that this would never happen. People, unfortunately, weren't doing that. And so they actually ended up, they told us, they're like, we had to unfortunately let people go because of this thing. But you know, if we hadn't been able to do that, we wouldn't have been able to continue to grow like how we
Wow.
were.
It's almost like this is a piece of software that supports processes, systems, and those darn cameras that you're supposed to have up there to helpfully keep people honest.
Yeah.
And when all of that fails, you go back to the math. You go back to the math. And to me, that's what, in my mind, is WickedFile allows you not only to keep very big control of that, but to get your math intuition going and applying the, if you will, the typical balance sheet. I bought it, I sold it, I bought it, I sold it, I bought it, I didn't sell it, I returned it, and they have all of that come together.
Yep.
Well, look at, with all the great things that you're doing, so appreciate you coming on here, Alex, at WickedFile.com and teaching us a little bit about how to be better shop owners. And if we're going to bust our ass and work so hard every day that all the money that we pay our people, we earn ourselves, it should be real and not let it go to places that shouldn't go.
100%. 100%.
Thanks so much for being here. Come back again when you got some new releases to talk about. I think our listeners would love to hear about it.
Yeah, definitely will. Thanks again, Carm. I appreciate
Thank
the
you, man.
time.
Appreciate it, Alex.